So here we are again, back at HQ after another few busy jobs, this time working around in Norfolk and a job in Devon as well, which we'll tell you all about. So these jobs are all new customers, new clients. So yeah, interestingly, when Andy's called in to new customers, or if we get involved with new fisheries, Andrew's role as a consultant, he needs to go in and you know, do a stock assessment, see what they've got, try and find out a bit about the history of the lakes and the fish stocks, and find out what the problems are and what they're trying to achieve really. So then you can build a plan going forward. You know, his fishery consultancy report and stuff would be more targeted around a way forward rather than just going and netting lakes and you know. So yeah, we try and have a bit of direction in what we're saying and understanding what they want to do and a route forward that way. So the first stop was Martham Pits, right over the other side of the country from where we are here, right on the border there, the east coast. So yeah, that was a club that I've been supplying with feed all this year, and they've had some really good feedback from on the Naturopal. They've been using Naturopal to combat parasites, and they've been sort of listening to our videos and watching what we do to implement that into their fishery management plan. So yeah, this is the first winter that we've had where we can go and sort of do a stock assessment and give a bit more advice and a clear way forward from there for Andy to do a written report. And yeah, it was those lakes over there. They're not massive, but they've got lots of islands, which just really sort of splits the lake up into tiny bays, little finger bays, and lots of long islands and very sort of intricate fishing really. They're not big lakes, but yeah, they are very broken up with islands and completely surrounded with Norfolk Reed Islands, Norfolk Reed all around the margins. There's lots of places for fish to hide and take refuge from the cormorants, which are pretty abundant over that part of the world. So yeah, our job was to do a stock assessment on those pits there. But yeah, as you can imagine, with cormorants being so rife over there, the silvers and a lot of the smaller juvenile fish, they just needed to be tucked right into the reeds, out the way of the cormorant where they're safe. So the Norfolk Reed margin was really protecting all those fish. So you can imagine fishing through the winter might be pretty poor when the cormorant's fishing. But when in the summer they're actually holding a quite a tremendous biomass of fish because they're hidden out of the way of the cormorants during the winter. So it was really a case of shooting nets into the open water, no big sweeps, but they're just as where we could put nets we did, and then electrofish around the margins to see what was in the what sort of volumes of fish were hiding in the Norfolk Reed. And yeah, there's a bit of everything there. There's lots and lots of silvers, perch, things like eels. You've got obviously carp, tench, bream, a bit of everything to go for there. And to be fair, the silvers were of a specimen size as well. All the fish were of a specimen size because they have been feeding, and you know, we're catching big roach, lots of big roach, lots of big perch, big bream, big carp. Everything was thriving on the food. So yeah, it's really a case of having a look at what they've got and making a plan to what they're going to do to move stock around the site. I know some of the fish, the lakes fish better than others, so it was really sort of working out where to put the fish and a management plan going forward. So yeah, a good few days there, and then we went on to King's Lynn Angling Club or Angling Association. So not too far down the road. And they had two big lakes there, one of which was otter fenced, one of the best otter fences I think I've ever seen. It's really, really smart. And yeah, the job was to assess the stock in that lake that had the otter fence around it, because lots of big carp had gone in, but the fishing's still pretty poor. So it was really just sort of having a look to see what's going on, see if the fish are still there, why they're not feeding, and again, trying to work out a plan going forward, being a new customer. So big sweeps there, nice little big lakes, nice and open. Obviously you could see the sea from where we were netting, so that's how close it was to the coast, so probably quite saline water really. And again, cormorants are absolutely rife. You only have to look into the air and you can count them as they're going around. So they're up against it a bit there, with particularly the silver fish. They just wanted to be tucked right into the margins. But you know, we were netting big sweeps and then electrofishing, and you could go on for half an hour at a time electrofishing and find nothing, and then all of a sudden you'll hit a bush where you can literally hear the fish splashing right in the back of these bushes where they're tucked right out of the way in the last few inches of water, similar to the video I put up the other day of the cormorants in one of my carp ponds. It was a similar story there, so the cormorants are really sort of having quite an impact over there. And same again in the summer, they'll come out and the biomass, they're there, the fish are there, but they're stressed in the back of those reeds. And so yeah, one of the jobs there was to utilise some fish in a lake where they're not fenced, to move them into lakes that they are. And yeah, the fish looked fine, they were there. It's just a case of getting them to feed, and I think a feeding plan will really benefit that place, because the carp need to have reward for feeding, because there is a lot of fish in there, and if they're not being fed, then they've got no reason to feed and graze. If every time they're feeding they're getting caught, then that's soon going to have a negative effect on the angling. So a feeding plan there to get the fish used to feeding, give them reward for grazing. That'll really make a big difference there, I'd imagine. So yeah, that was a nice job. Nice to meet those guys, and yeah, quite a bit different fishery, being quite close to that close to the coast. So and then where do we go next? It was Cullavelly, so the other side of the country, down in Devon or Cornwall. And that was a really nice part of the world. Real nice village and town is Cullavelly, right on the coast again. And real good complex actually. It's a real nice sort of holiday venue, lots of log cabins around the site, and some really good fishing as well. So nice sized lakes, like I said, between 3 and maybe 6 acres. All the fishing in those lakes were quite similar, so you had lots of carp, lots of everything, lots of bream and roach and perch. And it was really a case of having a plan to go forward, because all the lakes were offering the same sort of fishing really. So we were moving carp, specimen carp into one lake, so you got a specimen carp fishery. Some of the smaller carp would go into another one where there's easier fishing, and sort of runs and day ticket fishing. And then there's one lake which was fishing very poorly. As soon as we got there, you could see the water clarity the water was very clear, very sort of gin clear. So the job was to get more fish in there, because it wasn't a very deep lake, but you could tell there just wasn't, for whatever reason, there was much fewer fish in that lake. So that was the first one we netted to check that what we thought was to be true was right. And we found some carp, nice carp in there, but that was telling us something. The fact that the carp were in such good nick, there was no mouth damage, they're big chunky fish. That tells us that yeah, there were obviously not going to be that many fish present, because we weren't catching any in there. Water was gin clear, the fish were all in good nick. So that lake could hold more carp if we could find them to move them into there and improve the fishing on that lake. Because that lake was situated in a prime location on the site, that was the most popular lake, but the fishing was poor. So the job was to find fish around the site to improve the fishing on that lake. And then while we were going around all the lakes on site, we were correcting the biomass and having a plan to go forward, because again, a new customer. So all the fish we've done this week are all new clients, and yeah, there's that site again is our advice is again to feed, have a good feeding program on them, because the fish in there are very old. The complex I think was dug 20 years ago, so those fish are very old, but you wouldn't know it. And the biggest one was probably mid-20s at best. There's a couple of 20s perhaps that we saw. So with a bit of feeding, you can imagine those fish can soon push on. The low 20s and the high doubles can push on to mid 20s and close to 30 pound, and all of a sudden you've got a fishery which has got some real good specimen fishing. So yeah, that was a really interesting week. Another one was a bit different to the past few that we've done. The past few videos have been like existing clients that we go back to and help out every year. Well, these ones are actually new customers, and just sort of give you a bit of an eye open to how we approach new clients and new fisheries, and making a plan to go forward. So that's all for this year. It's soon be Christmas, and I'm in the office catching up on stuff to gear up ready for the spring and get all the ducks in order, ready to go again in the spring. So we'll catch up in the new year. We'll try and keep the content coming in the new year. Quite a lot of jobs to do up till March that Andy's got booked in, so we'll keep the content coming. Hopefully we can keep teaching you a thing or two with what we see and what we do. And until then, have a good Christmas and Happy New Year.